Good morning from AOA LLC, American Outdoor Adventure. Here's a non-pro tip for you, and, and a couple very important tips. Okay, first tip, very important, very important. Let's move this over here. Get that out of the way. Another very important tip: manuals, very important. Pictures. I love pictures. Pictures are awesome. Anyways, but this channel, let me kind of explain. I don't have a face for TV, a voice for radio. I am not a how-to show you type of guy. There's a lot of professional videos out there. I'm a non-professional, just hobbyist that likes to point out different things because I believe there's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff that you need to be aware of when you take on projects. Because I watch YouTube University all the time. This is how I learn to do things, right? But there's some things that I want to show behind the scenes you kind of need to be aware of, like buying parts, original year parts, maybe not numbers matching, but period correct. For example, the struggles of, okay, this was on my motorcycle. It's got a puncture there. It was, it's not a salvage motorcycle, but it was on there, it was running, but I just, I'm not a welder. I mean, I do have a welder, but I don't have an aluminum welder, and we'll kind of explain that here in a minute, but you'll see, but it's broken tab, it's really dirty, scraped up, and I was like, you know what, let me look on this. So I find one, looks pretty good, no holes, looks pretty good. I could shine that up, it's got all the pieces, it's got... So I was like, okay, well, I'll purchase it. It's over $170 plus shipping. I was like, okay, cool, right? I'll bring it in and shine it up and see what it looks like. And like I said, I'm more of a original equipment, kind of the original year, stuff like that. But, I'm not a brand new person. I don't like to buy nice and shiny stuff and then put it on something that looks like it's been around for, many years like this has. I mean, it's just obvious that, it's not brand new. It's, from 1993, so it's not new and nothing looks new. So I don't want anything that's going to come on it that looks new when I buy it, and put on something shiny that something's been weathered. I mean, and I do want to apologize that, again, no face for radio, no voice for TV, so it's something you're going to have to endure. but very important when you're buying parts. I get this part in, right? Nothing in the description. Pictures looked okay. Well, this was broke, so it falls off, right? So I'm like, okay, let me flip it over, and, here we are. I'm like, well, that's not right. That doesn't look like original from the factory. So I get on there, I get on eBay. eBay's a great platform. I mean, I'm not going to knock eBay. They've treated me very well over a few instances. I'm not going to knock the seller. Teach their own, right? But, I wrote, this is just structurally unsafe, right? Now I'll explain this. This is where I tried to weld. I don't have an aluminum welder, but I tried to turn my MIG welder into a welder, like on a YouTube video. So I did that. It works out okay. But, I'm not going to use this anyways. I'm not trying to fix this. I was just practicing because I'm thinking, maybe I'll have to cut a piece out from here, and put it in here. I don't know. But this is the struggles of trying to do period correct stuff and trying to look at pictures on somebody's website saying, oh, this might look okay. It looks good. It had all the screws. It was, it looked good, But again, this was covering it. This here was, on top of it like this, and the pictures, don't do things justice, right? I mean, that's all, of course. A picture says 1,000 words or a picture doesn't do it justice, it could go either way. But anyways, so this is what I find. But eBay took care of me. I emailed the guy back and said, look, this wasn't even a description. This is structurally unsafe. I mean, I can't even use this. A couple days later, I got my money back. Never heard from the seller, which I may not have. He just said, probably just gave me my money back. Or eBay just said, yep, I'm giving your money back. So anyway, I got my money back. But these are the struggles you're going to go through. Okay. Again, here. Got a bearing. Had it shipped to me. Right. Had to pay for shipping. wasn't the right one. Went to return it. They said, yeah, no problem. Well, I had to pay shipping back. So I'm saving $2, right? Or not even really. Paying for shipping, it was like $14 to ship it back, and it was like $8 for them to ship it to me. So I'm really not making, I'm not getting anything back. So I was like, you know what? I emailed them. They just refunded me my, $15. Not a big deal, right? But they took care of me. So now I have this extra bearing I really don't need at this point in time. Maybe another project, but again, not not a headache, but it's just you're just gonna have a bunch of parts left over because either they don't want it back or you just don't want to pay the shipping. I mean, why would I pay more money than what I did when I bought it, right? So different things. So, anyways, that's one of the parts. I'm trying to bring videos of the behind the scenes, right? These aren't edited videos. This is just me picking up the phone, coming out here, and expressing my concerns and trying to, really not concerns of anything, but more of a reality of, sometimes you're going to spend more money, right? These projects aren't cheap, nothing's cheap, right? You're going to end up buying things that aren't right, like this, 30-day returns. Well, this said to fit a 1993 motorcycle, right? Well, okay, great. I bought it. Now I need a speedometer, right? Because the speedometer that came on it is, I don't know where it's at, but it was just like a little single thing. This was like a Frankenstein, just hacked together motorcycle. So I finally, I finally found one, right? So I bring it out here. Well, it doesn't match up, right? The whole, I can't show you, but it's kind of hard. But the brackets don't match up to anything on where it needs to be bolted in. So the search is on again. So this piece, I can't return this over the window date. So here's, this motorcycle's been here for a little while. So years later, here, I finally found it, right? Finally found it. So now I have extra parts, right? So now I'm spending more money, right, than I originally intended, okay? So just be aware of that. But this is what I needed. I finally found it. So now I'm happy, It's things this has been here for, months. So it's not like I'm gonna lose sleep over it, I guess, but kind of stinks. But again, I had to buy, of course, fuel tank, fuel cap, matching keys, ignition, new. This one broke off, so I had to get a new piece, right? Original, not perfect, but original to the year. Wrong light, wasn't right. It was just hacked together. It's just things. Here's another instance. I couldn't find the original brake lever and reservoir. So this was Amazon 30-day return. Well, yes, I've had this for months too. Well, I finally found one, but it's over in a different box. I'm cleaning it up, but I found one. So again, extra parts. So always go into the project knowing you're going to spend more. Not a money pit, but you're going to spend more money. Now, could I resell that? Yeah, maybe. Am I probably going to get the money that I got out? Probably not. But projects are, satisfying, right? So, to a certain point, because, some of the stuff's aggravating, But, again, most of the stuff is you put something together. Like, these aren't original. I'll have a video on this, right? I had to buy new ones, right? I'll show you the brakes. I've already done a video on the brakes, but I'll go into more in depth of what came on it, and why I had to get new ones. So, but just my videos are just, I guess, educational to a certain point of, not how-tos, because there's so many professional videos out there that people do a great job at showing you how to. I'm more of an unprofessional, non-pro tip kind of person that just shows you my experience and the realities of behind the scenes of getting these projects. Now, if you have a newer motorcycle, parts are easy, right? But when you have something that you have to find used parts because they're obsolete, it makes it a little bit more challenging, but more satisfying in the end of, hey, this is, years ago. You don't see these motorcycles anymore. You get them, I like the full fairing, nice colors. I'm not into the the plain naked kind of bikes, but a lot of people are, and that's you can see it's kind of funny how you see the progression over the years of what the public wants and what the public sees. So you don't see these motorcycles anymore. because the generation, my generation, are getting older, right? So, the motorcycle days, living like a maniac, 100 miles an hour, or, well, I still do, but anyways, that's not the point. But, these types of bikes are, not around. And it's kind of nice to get these things, take them to car shows and show these young kids that are driving these, beautiful super bikes. They're just outstanding, just everything. But this is raw, no, no aids, no, rider aids or anything. It's just your hand on the throttle and your foot on the brake, and pray you get there, kind of thing. And like I said, it's safety first. So I usually, when you get a project, you take it all apart because you don't know what somebody else has done, and safety is key. So that's another thing that's going to take a long time. You can buy a motorcycle that somebody's put together or hacked together, and you can ride it, sure. But I'm not confident. I'm not even confident in myself sometimes. So yes, I do have to go to YouTube video. Am I doing this right? Is this the way it's supposed to go on? Very important pieces of information, right? Pictures are good. I love pictures, right? Because it shows you what the parts should look like. Some of the parts in the book may look like on eBay, like that fairing stay, that bracket, speedometer bracket. It looked like the correct piece. It said it was the correct piece, but in reality it wasn't. So again, window of opportunity gone, extra parts, right? So this more money that you're spending than what you need to, but apparently, but again, that's the project lifestyle, right? So, but it's very satisfying to bring something from nothing and turn it into something great. So, thank you for listening. God bless. And this is another non-pro tip from America Outdoor Adventure LLC. Have a great day.